I love the idea of like
Okay.
being surrounded by smarter people than me. I mean, at the risk of sounding too Nike, it's like, just do it. You know, like, it's very much like taking the first step to do it. Human beings are social creatures. We depend on others and work with others to achieve, our objectives and our goals. And then when you look at that in terms of the business landscape or even the tech startup space, you really do need the right connections. I think we're really privileged in this at least part of the world, or this startup ecosystem in the UAE, where we really are encouraged.
Hello guys, and welcome to the Social Kandura business podcast, where we bring the real people running behind some of the most successful businesses in the industry. Joining us today is Maryam A Hassani, who is the founder for Zealous, which is a very interesting networking app, amongst other things as well. Thank you so much. Welcome to the business podcast, Maryam. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I'm a big fan.
Thank you. Love the Zealous app. That we've seen a lot of things that the app has been doing. You know, we've been hearing so much about what the app is. How did the concept of networking really get into something that you wanted to do? I think networking is something which has been existed since years, also decades.
Yeah.
What was the venturing point into getting into creating or reinventing the wheel, so to speak, of for networking?
Yeah, so I think even before that, right, like human beings are social creatures. We depend on others and work with others to achieve, our objectives and our goals. And then when you look at that in terms of the business landscape or even the tech startup space, you really do need the right connections to succeed. Whether you have an idea you want to bring to life, it really depends on who can you rally support from, how can you get, the technical founder on board, how can you get the right creatives on board to elevate your message and market it to the world. So considering that it really is so intricate or so important to have these connections in place, I've been in the space for more than 5 years. I've been starting off with in management consulting. I helped design and implement startup programs, so I really got a sense of like what a company needs, what founders need to succeed in their startup endeavors. I also have experience, supporting companies to scale here, and find their market here, find the right connections here to succeed.
Sure.
So, and then obviously, more recently, I'm a startup founder myself. So I really got the 360 view. I wore a lot of hats around the ecosystem, and what I found is that what started off as a sort of passion project, how can we support people to kind of meet the right people and refer the people to each other who really do have a vested interest in like working together.
Gotcha.
I thought the best way to actually do that is to use technology to make human connections more seamless. So that's where Zealous came to be. It kind of evolved over time, but I think it's found its place in really supporting meeting and staying connected with people or your community,
Right.
And making that process intentional, easy, and meaningful.
Actually, very interesting to think about, something like this as well. When you think of networking, or when an average person thinks of networking, it's a very cumbersome process. Sometimes it's even stressful.
Yeah.
You meet 60 people during the day, and then you collect so many business cards, and then let's face it, they all just go to trash, and you never get to meet that person again. We were speaking off camera about this as well. How does Zealous really capture into that and solve that problem?
Yeah, so it's really looking at it from a back to basics, human-centric point of view. It's actually funny if you think about get-togethers or these networking events. Once they become more popular or people see value in it, they actually become larger, which is counterintuitive because it becomes then harder to meet the right people. It becomes busy. It becomes, like you have this extra layer of pressure to meet every single person in the room, or you're going to lose the opportunity. Or what happens on LinkedIn, where it's a very like a one-sided, everyone's trying to sell you something on LinkedIn. So we're looking at the landscape and thinking, okay, how can we reimagine this experience and process to not be so, like you said, such a hassle or awkward or ambiguous experience, So we're looking at it in a way like, okay, how do we, in the most seamless manner, find, meet, and stay connected with others, and how can we like create that into a optimized process that's super easy to do and can be done on the go. So we looked at technologies like our solution actually right now with Zealous is that we have an AI co-pilot integrated with that. So so you can actually speak with our AI co-pilot, who's basically meant to be your personal assistant in the networking field. You tell her we call her because we named her Zaya. So
nice.
So you can basically tell her what you're looking for, in an event, for example, like what exactly are your networking goals, so that she will only suggest profiles that suit those goals, but also making sure of that extra layer of they're also looking for you in return. Wow. Because that's a big part of it, right? Like it's very much, we don't want to create that one-sided type experience that a lot of other platforms have. And even beyond that, we really look into a relationship as a whole. So, it's not so much just what you say in chat back and forth. It's very much, okay, seeing the full picture. How often did you meet that person? Did you meet them virtually or in person? Did they refer contacts to you? Do they know people who could actually help you with other goals that you have? And, like we can prompt suggestions to refer that person. Wow. So it's very much like looking at it and making the process itself smarter using technology. So
it's almost like having a networking assistant to tell you who to meet, who are the person that's going to make the most amount of impact for you as well.
Exactly, because you see it a lot of the time, like even in events, everyone wants to, put the time in to get to know someone, but then like they're always in a hurry, right? Like there's 101 things happening.
True.
And then when you look at the solutions right now, like these matchmaking features that you see in a lot of the larger tech events, they're actually suggesting that you meet someone during the event itself, where there's like 100,000 things happening at the same time. You really don't give them the time of day, to really have a meaningful, conversation with them. So, you need to resort to taking their business card or adding them on LinkedIn or forgetting about them altogether. So when we thought about Zealous, it's, we're trying to actually go beyond the boundaries of time and space that's associated with events, that's associated with even, programs, alumni type cohort-based programs as well, where, do you know the people from the past cohorts and how can they help you? So it's very much like we want to go beyond constraints,
right?
And opening that up geographically, but also we notify you when the right person is around for you to meet. So it might not have made sense for you to meet that person during that event you were at last week, but 3 months down the line, when they're around you, it does make sense because your goals have changed and so have theirs.
Right.
And then we get you from, knowing that they're around you to actually meeting them as easy and as seamless as possible.
Very, I think there's a lot of thought that has gone into this as well, for you to understand the step-by-step journey from A to Z of everything else, which really makes a difference when you look at the app at the end of the day as well. How did you come up with the name?
So Zealous actually, it comes from zeal, which is to be passionate towards achieving an objection. It's zealous means to be passionate or focus on achieving an objective, and therefore we created this app for people like that, people who have a goal, a networking goal, whether that's to find a co-founder, to hire talent, to support startups, to get inspired, or just make friends. Like it's very much goal driven because we need to be able to match that goal with others on the app as well, and like really see like that win-win situation happen.
Gotcha. And being obviously a business owner or being an entrepreneur in the art space as well, also in the tech space as well, where UAE as such has been significant movements in the past decade or so to move a lot of towards tech as well. Women in tech is something which is praised all around the world, and that's something new that's coming in as well. But you've been doing this for a while. What were the top 2 or 3 challenges that you faced when you decided that A, I'm going to go into tech, and B, I'm going to redefine networking? What was like the personal challenges that you...
I wouldn't look at it from a lens of, being a female founder. I think we're really privileged in this at least part of the world, or this startup ecosystem in the UAE, where we really are encouraged. And of course, there are a lot of incentives out there and, support programs and such. But I think if I were to look at the challenges, I think this is something a lot of founders face, is like finding the right people, to go on this mission with you. Because it's very much a long game, right? Like I've been thinking, Zealous has been baking since a year now, or even more than a year.
Right. Yeah.
We're continuously learning, continuously improving the app based on user feedback. That's why we love our early adopter users, because
True.
they're really shaping it with us. And that's what we're looking for. So even when it comes to people to join our team, a very small but mighty team, we look for the people who actually care about solving this problem and actually felt it themselves at some point.
Gotcha.
So you need to rally that support to do that, because it is a very, again, it's something you need to be passionate about. Otherwise, like the time and effort you put in is really tough.
Yeah.
So I think that would be one. Maybe the second challenge would be, and again, I think that this goes across the board. It's a personal learning experience.
True.
Again, looking at it from the side that I've had different experiences. I've worn different hats in the ecosystem. This being, I think the most,
challenging.
Challenging, or maybe close to the sun experience.
Okay. That's a nice phrase, close to the sun experience.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I think honestly, it's making, I'm better off for it, because in my official capacity as an ecosystem enabler with a government entity based in Abu Dhabi, I'm taking these learning experiences and I'm taking them, bringing them into my work so that I can better support startups in the ecosystem.
Gotcha.
So it's very much, bringing everything full circle.
Fair enough. When you hire someone, what are the two things that you definitely look for? Because, we all are very small teams and everybody's working to like 200, 300%.
Yeah.
What are the two most crucial factors when you were to hire someone from your team? Be it someone that's going to be facing the consumers, the customers, or someone that's actually going to be building the product. Two most important things when you look at hiring someone.
Yeah. I think the first is the passion, right? Like, do they actually care about solving this problem as much as I do? So they're going to put in that extra 100%. To get to the real, value in the work that they're doing. Do they see pride in that as well? And second, I would say is, I always consider okay, could this person do the job better than I can? I'm not saying that I'm an expert at everything. I'm really not. But I think, especially when you're working with such a small team and you're working as fast and as agile as in a startup, you wanna trust the person's ability.
True.
And their skills. So you want that extra, extra something that they can bring to the
So
work.
are you a firm believer of hiring people smarter than you are?
100%. And I love the idea of being surrounded by smarter people than me, because again, it is very much a learning experience, and looking at it and embracing that fact, I think is very important.
And when it comes to people, what's usually your approach? Do you hire fast, fire faster, or do you hire faster but fire slower? Do you give people
That's a good question.
chance to because a lot of business owners, they just hire, and if something goes wrong, immediately they're fired.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of business owners who invest into people because they know that there's potential. Which one would you be?
Yeah. I think, again, looking back to human nature, I think I'd love to say, the industry, advice is that you should, find the right person, hire fast and fire fast if they're not making the cut, because, you really lose that productivity. And then there's also obviously a lot of research around how one, person can affect other team members and so on, if it's not part of, they don't suit the culture. But I think personally, I should probably do a better job. I think, you always hold out, the person is learning, them showing interest. In any case, everything can be learned.
True.
But I think what really can't is that, that driving force within the person themselves to learn and to improve.
Fair
so
enough.
I'm all for, giving them the space to do that. I'm learning myself. But I need to see that there is that, dedication, commitment to going the extra mile. And realizing if they need to learn something, they should learn it super quick.
So time is of the essence, and we just need to make sure that whatever that needs to be done is being done at a pace, because obviously, end of the day, you got productivity that needs to be figured out as well.
Yeah.
there's a very important term in modern corporate spaces called as corporate wellness. We're doing a business podcast earlier, and one of them really spoke at length about corporate wellness and the importance that it has with mental healthness, because of COVID, and in the networking space as well. How do you make sure that all the people that work in and around you, and not just the people who are working for you, but then also the people that work around together in the ecosystem, to make sure that they are in a good state of mind, and to make sure that they are quote unquote taken care of? What's your holistic approach towards quote unquote taking care of your people?
Yeah. I think maybe just starting like everyone who supports wellness in this space. I think it also starts from within. Like you should be like, if you're in a leadership role, you should be the shining example of that, to show that you care about your own well-being. You take the time that you need to recuperate, or like to re-energize yourself, so that again you can give your best and give your all at
True.
work. I wouldn't necessarily say I'm a great example. I'll be honest. I mean, a lot of traveling recently, and again, I think this is where the passion comes in. Like, I don't see working on Zealous as work,
True.
like having a long day of actual work, and then coming and like thinking about, okay, how can we better design this process or this flow within the app. Like, I actually sit down and I like to think about it. And like visualize it, and obviously having the right people around you to bounce ideas off of. It's again very much you personally having to take the time you need, or the space you need.
True. Yeah.
And obviously in a corporate, let's say in a very corporate setting, part of it would be getting permission, to take off if you need to, and so on. But
Correct.
I think in the startup space, it's very much like it's flexible enough that you can set the boundaries that you need, or like the time you need. But I think there should be like a very clear almost productivity, like
the balance between productivity and measure as well.
Yeah, there has to be something. The productivity has to increase, basically. Like, even if you
True.
you can take work a 4-day week, but
still
you're working at like 10% more than you would at the 5-day if you didn't have a break. That's great. I mean, no one's gonna.
End results matters to be the same, I think.
Yeah, I think it's also like, again, like working in such a small team, working on something that's ever changing. Like, you want to be in a mindset where like you're always open to learning, and like open to the process of like the evolution of what's to come. Because
True.
Otherwise you get super frustrated, right? Like, let's say you spend time in the example of creating a flow. You spend time and energy to do that, but then some users come and say like, no, we're not really feeling it.
Yeah.
It's not really working. So it's the idea of like continuously improving things and not being so attached to your first piece of work. Because in reality, like what effect you want it to have, you want it to be well received by the
All
users.
of those,
you want people to use the application. You want people
True.
to see the content you're putting out. So I would look at it in that sense.
And when it comes to making a real impact in people's life, because you talk about networking, we talk about doing tech as well. Why just tech? Why not beyond tech? Do you think that somewhere you restrict yourself by keeping it only to tech, or is the idea to be the number one and the only platform for tech? The other industries already have something like that, or they don't want something like that.
So the reason why I chose tech is obviously I'm involved in the space, but also I think especially in tech, there's a lot of meetings that happen. There's a lot of networking that happens. So it's a very fast-paced space. And like I said, it really doesn't matter, meeting the right person and getting the right group together to collaborate on something and get something off the ground.
True.
But when we say tech or the startup space, it's quite, large in scope as well. We're not just talking about the founders or the technical people who are the developers. It's also, the graphic designers, the creatives, the marketeers,
the testers, A/B
the
testers,
podcast host as well. Like, it's really how do you bring the full ecosystem together? Like, you need your investors, you need your ecosystem enablers, you need just passionate people. People who are even willing to intern or do copywriting for
because advertising is a very crucial part.
It's huge, yeah.
And I must compliment you on your ads because they're so organic. And I've actually come across few on TikTok and on Instagram.
Oh, wow.
And it's one of those ads which says that it starts off and it's like this Emirati content creator, this Emirati met at this app, and she's creating a networking app like nothing else before. It's like swipe up to find out more as well. Marketing from there, I think, is something that's very natural and very organic. I would say it doesn't look like an ad until you go and actually see it. To market a tech ad in that casual, because most tech stuff is quote unquote plain vanilla boring, they don't make it exciting, but you've managed to add that exciting part of it onto the tech app. So who takes care of marketing for you? Is this something that you have some ideas about, or do you have a separate team that works for marketing?
I think you need to thank our who's leading our marketing, Lara, on that.
Oh,
so it's
okay.
very much, I think, also an organic process in
Right.
which we decide like, okay, what kind of content should we be generating? What do people want to see? How can we know, how can we go beyond like the boring type of information type things and just see it live in action? It's very important to show people are using the app, that there's actual value being generated through meeting the right people and how the app works. Because I think in today's day and age, like, attention spans are very limited.
Yes.
So it is very much like, okay, how can we get the point across as fast as possible and to really show people like, okay, even again, back to your question, why specifically tech? Part of the awareness here is that tech is such a wide space that it actually has a place for everyone. So getting that point across and having people see that they also have a place on the app is very important. And that's what we're trying to do through the social media.
Interesting. You run obviously multiple businesses, you do something in clean energy as well, and you also work with the Abu Dhabi government as well. How do you find the time to do all of these things?
I mean, I'd like to, I think, do I find the time to do everything? I'm not sure, but...
That's a very honest answer, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's very much like thinking, okay, one step at a time.
Right.
Very much so, and at least with Hydro Wind Energy, which is the other company, I'm a co-founder and chief innovation officer at. I actually took a bit of a step away from that because, again, it's about like how much value can you provide to something,
right?
And having like those clear conversations with the team and tell them, listen, I'm kind of focused on this right now.
Gotcha.
I'm happy to support on this, and this because I have time to do that, but I wouldn't be able to, be the person to lead on X, Y, and Z. It's very much like clarity, clearly communicating expectations and things like that. But then with Hydro Wind Energy, I'm lucky because we have a great team around that, and
right. Yeah.
I'm happy to say they don't really need me that much. So
that's the goal with any businesses, is so that it works with other founders as well.
Yeah.
What time do you usually wake up?
Ooh, to like this week?
Honest answer. Yeah. Generally, because I know this week you've been traveling.
Yeah. So I mentioned to you, like, I'm on 2 different time zones. I'm actually going back to San Francisco next week for a Tech Crunch. Okay. Which is like a great tech event. I hope to meet a lot of interesting people.
Yeah.
So I would say I wake up quite forcefully at 9:01 a.m.
Okay.
And if you see my alarm list, it's like it's never a perfect, on an hour dot. It's like 9:01, like
8:53.
Yeah.
8:52. Okay.
I don't know why. Like I just do that, and I think that at least I find it very valuable to sleep that extra minute.
Okay.
Puts me on a great
just to
in
get
a great
the
feel. Yeah.
Amazing. Okay.
And you mentioned when do I sleep? I think it varies. So depending on like calls and things that I have to do. When I was actually in the US before, like I was taking calls till like 1 or 2 a.m.
Wow, that's
so
pretty
it's
late.
like
yeah.
You just figure out a way to make it work. But I would probably say around 12, let's say, on a good day.
Pretty decent, yeah, pretty decent. A lot of young people, they really look up to the stuff that you're doing. They meet you at these events, they meet you at all of those things. What's your key message to a lot of young female Emiratis who are trying to get into the tech space, or you want to do something that's out of the blue for them? What's your driving factor and the message for all of those people?
I mean, at the risk of sounding too Nike, it's like, just do it. It's very much like taking the first step to do it. And I think, again, embracing it as a learning experience. There's going to be days where things aren't going to work out. There's going to be days where like you get super frustrated. But it's really about like, okay, remembering why you're doing this. And again, always tying it back to you actually wanting to solve this problem. like the problem of like how to meaningfully connect with people in the space. That's my personal problem. You know, like I want to solve it for myself and all others like me.
Gotcha. And if there was one thing that you would do differently in your entire journey with Zealous and with Hydro Energy as well, what would be that one thing that you would hope that you'd do differently?
I think maybe not be too attached to like the earlier, you know,
Really?
like ideas and designs. Like I think just being a lot faster in terms of iteration. Like, you know, like I think this is a personal thing for me. Like I want everything to kind of be perfect, but then I've learned through this very eye-opening experience is that nothing's ever going to be perfect. And then you always want to get something out in front of, you know, the users or the early adopters as soon as possible to get that feedback. So it's like being super agile and like not being too, you know, married to whatever you've created.
The initial concept and idea. Be open to change, basically. is
Yeah,
what you'd say.
exactly.
Amazing. Thank you so much for spending so much time with us, and all the very best with Zealous. And we hope to see you more. We hope to see you more on all of these tech events and more of that stuff as well. Congratulations, and all the very best for everything else. Thank you for spending so much time with us.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure.
Pleasure. Thank you.